Howdy everybody, I'm Gary and this is GLoPersonalFinance, where I talk about getting your finances under control, building wealth, and becoming financially independent. Recently, I had the amazing opportunity to collaborate with my longtime friends and elementary school classmates way back when we were in Houston, Texas. We found out our respective channels have overlapping topics, so we wanted to have a roundtable Zoom chatting about the benefits of budgeting. So what I want you to do is check out their YouTube channel, Front Runner Leadership Consulting, and their 15-minute fixed videos covering a huge array of topics. It's also great knowing both of our channels are relatively young, so please consider subscribing to both of our channels to see what it's like to build a channel from the ground up. So stay and hear our discussion of the joys of budgeting.
We are so glad that you all are joining us for another 15-minute fix. Today we are talking about, in our financial mini-series, the topic of budgeting. Now, we know that there are many models of budgeting out there right now. We hope that you are at least trying one of them in your financial adventures and your financial journeys. Some people try the envelope method, where they might put a certain amount of cash in an envelope for the month and they divvy it out, and when it's done, it's done. Other people might have more complex Excel spreadsheets. Some people even have budgeting apps and other technology, but whatever the means, budgeting and savings and your spending and how you spend and what you dedicate your finances to are very important. So today we have Kimberly Robinson, who is one of our regular co-hosts here, who's going to give us some background and processes on this. And we also have a very special guest with us today. I would like to introduce you all to Gary Lowe of GLoPersonalFinance. You can find him on YouTube, and we'll talk a little bit more about his channel and how you can get some additional information from Gary later on in our show. So thanks so much for being here with us today, Gary. Glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yes, really excited to have you.
Yes. So Kim, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for getting us kicked off, Kasha. First, I'd like to say that I personally am a spreadsheet girl in all aspects of my life, but especially for budgeting. I also do use Personal Capital for a budgeting app, but I really like the plugging into spreadsheets and kind of just seeing where I am. So just a tip about me and budgeting. So I'd like to share, I think that there's a lot of different ways that people go about budgeting for their household. I think there's probably still a shocking amount of people to me that maybe don't track it as diligently. But we are here to just provide tools that help you along whatever point of the journey that you are. It's never too late to start. There's lots, I think Gary will share as a part of his journey too, that he's learned kind of on his own as he's grown and had an opportunity to research what style works for his family. So we look forward to hearing those tips. I kind of looked in to see some facts about how the typical average American household budget. So I did some research on debt.com and then US News in the money section, just to kind of look to see, just to give us a baseline where maybe some of our listeners fall into. So they said that the average American household spends 56% of their budget on food, which I thought was very interesting, 44% on dining out. 40% of transportation costs go to the vehicle, and that could include whether it's your gas, your insurance, or an auto loan. And then another 21% to gas and oil, and then the remaining 32% on other costs such as repairs. So just some typical things that we probably have in every household, but I just thought that was an interesting breakdown about how some of those, that income for the household gets broken down. Something else that's interesting, I think that no matter what financial gurus you follow, we hear a lot about starting your emergency fund. That may be some financial advice that you got from your parents or other places where they said, you should always have some money set aside in case of emergency to minimize the use of credit cards or things like that. But when I looked up, how this is applied for, based on the statistics they have on money from usnews.com, they said that most people, even families who make six figures, so $100,000 or more, are not able to come up with $1,000 if they need to come up with something for an emergency. So if you think of something big, so if you own a home or you're renting a home or somewhere where you would be responsible for the repairs, you know, a refrigerator going out, a washing machine going out, a big car repair, any of that could take you $1,000. Most families, even what we would consider, you know, middle class that make $100,000 per household income are having a hard time. I think that, you know, especially now when we're talking about the state of the economy and where we are, it's really important that we dial into some tips that we have. I think that budgeting does take some intentionality. It does take a little bit of forethought, but it's nothing that's impossible. No matter what your income is, there's a space for budgeting. So we're excited to be able to share some tools to help you make the most out of your money, not just for what you're making today, but to also look at how you plan for your future expenses and savings. So I'm excited to turn it over to Gary. He's definitely has a breadth of knowledge and experience. As Kasha mentioned, he's someone that we knew, went to school with in our younger years, but I've also been following him recently on his YouTube channel and a great Facebook group that he created for money knowledge. So excited to hear what he has to share with us today. So Gary, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
For sure. Thank you guys so much for having me again. Whenever I first talk about budgeting to other people, there is something that I like to do to connect them first. For example, when I first started teaching, when you first start teaching, you're in the bottom of the totem pole. You don't get paid much at all. And I was living paycheck to paycheck. And I've been a teacher for 12 years, and I was living paycheck to paycheck for a good 4 years. And the cool thing about teaching is usually when you go up in a year, you'll get paid more. You get paid a little bit more each year that you teach. But surprisingly enough to me, every time I taught another year, I would still live paycheck to paycheck, even though I was making more, which was crazy to me. So after year 4, when I started living paycheck to paycheck, that's when the light sort of came on. It's like, I need to budget. I need to track my spending. So budgeting is really 2 main parts: is listing everything that you need to spend money on and putting a number to it. And the second part of budgeting is tracking. You've got to track what you spend. So obviously, I mean, I'm sure everybody has an idea of what a budget is. You have your mortgage, groceries, internet, utilities. You've seen a budget before, right? The thing that gets people is being able to track what they spend. How much do you spend on a certain item? So there are fixed costs. I mean, the mortgage, internet, all the utilities, those are pretty much fixed. But the thing that you were talking about before, Kim, is the restaurant budget, or how much somebody spends at the restaurant, how much somebody spends on coffee. That was just the thing that really blew my mind when I started tracking. Now, tracking was pretty hard. Like you, I love spreadsheets also. So when I first started tracking, I literally went through my credit card statement and wrote down every little thing that I spent money on. And I thought to myself, I am spending a good 2 hours on this almost every week, trying to track down everything I spent. There must have been a better way of doing that. So online, that's where I went. So like you, I use Personal Capital. I also use Mint, and I also use this other app called YNAB, I think it stands for You Know About Budgeting. I don't remember what it is, but that one is a paid service. So I don't like paid services, so I usually don't use that one, but it was a really good one. It was free for 34 days. I used it, and it got me on track. It tracked everything.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But Mint and Personal Capital, even though they track everything that you spent on, those are free services, and usually with the free service, you are the product. So you're giving up a little bit of your privacy for that free service. But I settled with Personal Capital because Personal Capital did have the best privacy policy among the 3 that I checked out. So let's talk about Personal Capital. They tracked everything. They tracked my spending. I was able to see how much I spent on coffee. I was able to see how much I spent on restaurants. And then it hit me. I was like, oh, that's why I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Like, these are things that I can adjust. Obviously, I can't adjust how much my mortgage or rent is going to cost. Well, I guess I can. I can probably live in a less than satisfactory place. But I mean, for the most part, those are pretty fixed.
Mhm.
So tracking is paramount to budgeting. Seeing how much you spend on a certain item. And one of the main things that I think most budgeting softwares actually omit is the paying yourself line item. So you have, your cell phone bill, you have your utilities, but a lot of people omit paying yourself. So that's actually on the very, very top of my budgeting list is I pay myself 10% no matter what. Even before I pay anything else, I will pay myself 10%. And that's only gone up every year. Like I said before, every year as a teacher, you get paid more and more. So I just changed that savings rate 10%, 12%. Now I'm up to a good 35% right now. And
Wow.
I've been able to live how I was 7 years ago when I first started budgeting, because I knew I can make it work with what I had. So if I just increase my savings rate, I can do really well. I can have a higher savings rate than what I had before. So budgeting is great, but tracking is where you really understand where your money goes.
So one of the things I was going to add is that years ago, as a child, my grandfather gave me some of the best savings and budgeting advice that I've ever had. And it was very simple. And he said, your income has to be more than your outgo. And I thought, that's true, actually. So you talking about that savings and, well, also the tracking and budgeting is very important, because to your point, if you say, hey, I have some things that are fixed, but some things that are a little bit flexible, when you're looking at maybe a pie chart or your budget and tracking it, and you can see, okay, if I spend a little bit on this, I can live in a nicer place when my lease renews or when I move again and get a new mortgage. Or if I make cutbacks here, then I can add more to my savings and pay myself more each year. So you're right. I think that tracking component is huge. So thank you for that. So we have to know where all of our dollars are going and all of our cents, and we have to track it on a regular basis. One of the things I was going to add also is, in addition to some of the free apps and technology that are out there, a lot of the major financial institutions and probably also credit unions provide that in your account. So for example, the bank that we bank with, I can see a pie chart as we use our debit or whatever card you have associated with it. It kind of categorizes it. Now it doesn't do it place by place, but it'll say this much on food, this much on entertainment, this much to your savings. And that's a great visual representation at a snapshot look to say, to your point, oh, I spent this much on entertainment, or I put this much in my savings this month. Okay, great job. So that's another app that's already linked to your checking account without using a third-party vendor.
And what I want to add in there is, for the viewers out there who haven't budgeted yet, who's just starting to budget, what I would ask for you to do first is don't make a budget right now tonight. What I would do is I would actually wait 3 months, track your spending first, and then make your budget based on your tracking. Okay, because then you'll have a good average amount of how much you spend on entertainment, how much do you spend on Netflix, how much do you spend, or not Netflix, on all your subscription services.
Right.
And then so after 3 months, it gives you a good average. You can make your budget, and then from there you can say, oh, maybe I don't need Hulu, maybe I don't need Disney Plus, maybe I can eat out maybe I can eat out once a week instead of 3 times a week, or I can make coffee at home.
Yeah.
Then you can start trimming and really refining your budget.
Absolutely. Something that I want to highlight too, I think that, at least from my experience, when I recall people saying that they're on a budget, it always gives a negative connotation. But there is a financial guru that I follow. Her name is the Budgetnista. And what I like the way she puts it is, your budget is your say yes plan. So once you understand where all your money is going, then you can plan how to get the things that you want. It's about getting the things that you want. It's not restricting you. It is maybe saying that sometimes you won't get it today because you need to budget to be able to have that, so you can still allocate towards that and take care of all of your regular expenses. But it's to get you to that yes. So what do I need to do with what I have today to get me to the yes of the things that I want?
That is a great perspective, Kim. Absolutely. And to Gary's point, that was really good insight that sometimes we shouldn't just jump into the budgeting part, but stop and just see what you're already doing first and then revisit it after a set amount of time to determine your budget. That was absolutely our experience when I went from a single person to becoming married and having a joint family budget. Okay, let's see what we're already spending. Let's see how we're going to come together on this. So that is great insight. Well, thank you both for your input today. We want to challenge you all to set a budget. We're challenging you to your say yes plan, as Kim said. Put together your plan and your strategy so that you can know what you have to work with and what you can say yes to. Now, some things we really should just say no to, y'all. We don't need every subscription. We don't need Disney Plus and Hulu and Netflix and HBO and sports, et cetera, et cetera. We need to pick a few things with our say yes plan and budget. So that is your challenge for the week. There are also many templates out there that you can use. Even in the financial peace method, there are some templates that are out there on Dave Ramsey's website and some other financial gurus as well. Take a look at those. I'm a template person, like Kim is a spreadsheet person. So I love templates that I can just plug in. So that's your challenge. And for your resource this week, 15-Minute Fixers, we want to send you over to GLoPersonalFinance on YouTube. Check out Gary's website. We're excited for you all to see the videos that he has out there. Very knowledgeable, very helpful. And we hope to have him back again to actually tell us how his savings plan tied into his retirement plan. We're going to talk about retirement. That's another hot topic we all need to know about, but it starts with, first of all, the savings and the strategy, and he'll help loop that back together for us another day. So thanks, 15-Minute Fixers, and thank you so much to Gary and Kim for your time today. We'll see you all soon.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a good one.